I think there's a perception that as the market softens, it gets easier to buy property. They might even be thinking that they don't need to employ professional help because it's going to be leverage on their side. But the fact of the matter is sometimes these slower markets and softer markets are actually even harder to buy in than the really strong, robust, booming property markets. And there's a few reasons why. First one is there's really low stock levels out there at the moment. So naturally, if you're a vendor looking to upgrade or downgrade, you haven't got a compelling reason to list your property. Plus, you feel like you might not get the best price for it. So that means that often vendors sit on their hands, which means there's just not enough stock around to consider. Second to that, we've got less development supply, so less new property supply, because construction costs are so high, projects are not feasible, and if they build them, they're not going to be able to be sold at the levels that they need to make the project profitable. So there's less new stock and there's less established stock, which means the market freezes. Then there's a lot of poor quality stock because naturally the people that do want to sell that have average property think now might be a good time to get rid of it. So you're left looking at properties that aren't quite right for you, and the buyer starts to wonder whether they should be compromising because there's just less options for them to consider and benchmark against what's on the market. The third one would be that there's not enough data around a priced property. So when you're looking at a property that hits the market now or is off market, naturally you're looking at a lot of sales that were 3 to 6 months ago, which was a totally different landscape. So it's a really complex market to price, and buyers are left to take direction from the selling agents, which are naturally not on their side. So they can get caught pricing way too low and getting blown out of the water at auction, or they're pricing way too high and they pay way too much for the property, which no one wants to do in a softer market like this. So that makes pricing and negotiating challenging. And that's probably the last one, which is the negotiation or the sale methods that are happening at the moment. There's less auctions, there's more private sales, and there's more expressions of interest. And what we see with expressions of interest and private sale methods is they're really designed by the agent to be somewhat convoluted and allow them to leverage what could be no buyers or only one buyer against you. So you really need to have a good relationship with the agent, and you need to know up front exactly how they're going to run the campaign. There's been situations where we've gone in on expression of interest, there's been two buyers at the same level, and that night they want to run an auction on Zoom with the two parties going toe-to-toe against each other. Now that can be really nerve-wracking for a buyer who's not prepared for that. So at the moment, you have to be prepared for anything, and you have to understand that stock levels are low, but that is going to change. You need to make the best decisions you can with what's available. And the last tip I think that's really important is to make sure you consider your lending options. There's a real discrepancy between the banks at the moment as to what your capacity might be with each of them. In some cases, we've seen buyers have a difference of 10 to 20% borrowing capacity just on different lenders. So it's a great way to be able to increase your capacity and open up a whole new pool of properties that you might not have considered before.